Hello students, welcome to the class of English Literature. Today we are going to discuss a poem written by Robert Browning. The title of the poem is Rabbi Ben Ezra. This poem is included in the syllabus of BA Part 2nd for paper 1st. Before this lecture we did a literary term dramatic monologue. I think you remember. Dramatic monologue is a type of poem in which a speaker speaks, and whatever he speaks, that makes the whole content of the poem. So, Rabbi Ben Ezra is also a type of dramatic monologue. As you also know that Robert Browning was the inventor of dramatic monologue. So, this poem is also an example of dramatic monologue. Robert Browning is a Victorian poet. He was born on 7th May 1812 in London, England, and he died at the age of 77 on December 12, 1889 in Venice, Italy. Robert Browning, major English poet of the Victorian age, noted for his mastery of dramatic monologues and psychological portraits. Browning received only a slight formal education, although his father gave him grounding in Greek and Latin. In 1828, he attended classes at the University of London but left after half a session. He lived with his parents in London until 1846, first at Camberwell and after 1840 at Hatcham. During this period, from 1832 to 1846, he wrote his early long poems and most of his plays. Browning's first published work was Pauline, a fragment of confession. It was written anonymously. Anonymously means poet did not disclose his name with its publication. It was published anonymously means without any writer. यानी जिस वर्क का राइटर हमें नहीं पता होता उसे एनोनिमस राइटिंग कहते हैं. Although formally a dramatic monologue, embodied many of his own adolescent passions and anxieties. Although it received some favorable comments, it was attacked by John Stuart Mill, who condemned the poet's exposure and exploitation of his own emotions and his intense and morbid self-consciousness. It was perhaps Mill's critique that determined Browning never to confess his own emotions again in his poetry but to write objectively. After this poem, he wrote objectively. He didn't show his own real sentiments. In 1835, he published Paracelsus and in 1840 Sordello, both poems dealing with men of great ability striving to reconcile the demands of their own personalities with those of the world. Paracelsus was well received, but Sordello, which made exacting demands on its readers' knowledge, was almost universally declared incomprehensible. Encouraged by the actor Charles Macready, Browning devoted his main energies for some years to verse drama, a form that he had already adopted for Strafford. In 1837, he wrote a drama entitled Strafford. Between 1841 and 46, in a series of pamphlets under the general title of Bells and Pomegranates, he published 7 more plays in verse, including Pippa Passes, a blot in the Scutcheon, Luria, etc. These and all his earlier works, except Strafford, were printed at his family's expense. Although Browning enjoyed writing for the stage, he was not successful in the theatre since his strength lay in depicting, as he had himself observed, of Strafford, action is character rather than character in action. So he was not successful in writing verse dramas. In 1845, now we will discuss Browning's personal life. In 1845, Browning met Elizabeth Barrett. In May, they met and soon discovered their love for each other. Barrett had, however, been for many years an invalid, confined to her room, and thought incurable. Her father, moreover, was a dominant and selfish man. When her doctors ordered her to Italy for her health, and her father refused to allow her to go, the lovers, who had been corresponding and meeting regularly, were forced to act. They were married secretly in September 1846. A week later, they left for Pisa. Throughout their married life, although they spent holidays in France and England, their home was Italy, mainly at Florence, where they had a flat in Casa Guidi. Their income was small, although after the birth of their son, Robert, in 1849, Mrs. Browning's cousin John Kenyon made them an allowance of £100 a year, and on his death in 1856, he left them £11,000. Browning produced comparatively little poetry during his married life. Apart from a collection in 1849, he published only Christmas Eve and Easter Day in 1850, an examination of different attitudes towards Christianity, perhaps having its immediate origin in the death of his mother in 1849. In an introductory essay to some spurious letters of Shelley, Browning's only considerable work in prose and his only piece of critical writing, and Men and Women in 1855. This was a collection of 51 poems. Dramatic lyrics such as Memorabilia, Love Among the Ruins, A Toccata of Galuppi, the great monologues such as Fra Lippo, How It Strike, a Contemporary, and Bishop Blougram's Apology, and a very few poems in which implicitly or explicitly he broke his rule and spoke of himself and his love for his wife. Men and Women, however, had no great sale, and many of the reviews were unfavorable and unhelpful. Disappointed for the first time by the reception of his work, Browning in the following years wrought little, sketching and modeling in clay by day and enjoying the society of his friends at night. At last, Mrs. Browning's health, which had been remarkably restored by her life in Italy, began to fail. On June 29, 1861, she died in her husband's arms, and in the autumn he returned slowly to London with his young son. His first task on his return was to prepare his wife's last poem for the press. At first he avoided company, but gradually he accepted invitations more freely and began to move in society. Another collected edition of his poems was called for in 1863, but Pauline was not included in that. When his next book of poems, Dramatis Personae, in 1864, reached 2 editions, it was clear that Browning had at last won a measure of popular recognition. In 1868-69, he published his greatest work, The Ring and the Book, based on the proceedings in a murder trial in Rome in 1698. Grand alike in plan and execution, it was at once received with enthusiasm, and Browning was established as one of the most important literary figures of the day. For the rest of his life, he was much in demand in London society. He spent his summers with friends in France, Scotland, or Switzerland, or after 1878 in Italy. While staying in Venice in 1889, Browning caught cold, became seriously ill, and died on December 12. He was buried in Westminster Abbey. So this is all about Robert Browning. Now we will discuss a short introduction of the poem Rabbi Ben Ezra. Rabbi Ben Ezra was first published in 1864 as one of the poems in Robert Browning's Dramatis Personae. Like many of his other poems in the collection, this one has a 12th century scholar Abraham ibn Isra as its narrator. In the poem, the Rabbi is speaking to an unknown audience about the beauty of each age in human life and the problems associated with them. So, this is a dramatic monologue. Here, the speaker is a Rabbi ben Isra. Rabbi ben Isra is a dramatic monologue of 32 stanzas, each consisting of 6 lines with an experimental rhyme scheme A, B, C, B. So we can see line 3rd and line 6 are rhyming together. First and second line are rhyming together, and then 4th and 5th are also rhyming together. Robert Browning was given a copy of Fitzgerald Rubaiyat by Dante in 1861. In 1864, Browning published a collection of poems called Dramatis Personae. In this collection was the poem entitled Rabbi ben Isra. Rabbi ben Isra means Abraham ibn Isra, a 12th century poet, scholar, mathematician, which basically rejects the hedonistic sentiments of Fitzgerald Khayyam in favor of higher things. Abraham ibn Isra was a Spanish rabbi who in his middle years was driven by persecutions from Spain into a life of travel and scholarship. He was a theologian and a philosopher, a linguist and a scientist, a strong believer in immortality. He found the second half of his life much more productive and satisfactory than the first half. The idea of the poem are Browning's. In this poem, whatever we will read, that we can say the ideas of the author of the poem, Browning, not the narrator, not the speaker, and they are not always in accord with the Rabbi's actual sentiments. Thank you.